Hey, everybody. Welcome to Edge of Wonder with Ben and Rob. Did you hear that the world's largest buried treasure haul was discovered?
Yeah, it's being called the Holy Grail of Shipwrecks.
Now there's an international money grab unfolding over the $20 billion of silver, gold, and jewels expected to be brought to the surface.
And the question is, who will win it all? Colombia, the United States, or another party?
Speaking of treasure hauls, yeah, hopefully. Speaking of treasure hauls, we also uncovered a really bizarre true story. It's got pirates, a buried bounty, a treasure map, and a secret code that will have you questioning whether the Seychelles government knows more than it lets on.
Right. So, was the Goonies actually a documentary? Well, join us tonight as we reveal it all. So, we'll see you out
on the edge.
And if you're listening to our Edge of Wonder podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or elsewhere, please leave us a 5-star rating and review to help us reach even more people.
Ben's got the Micro Machines Man thing going on right now.
And remember to like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're watching us on all the streaming platforms. So,
well, hey, before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to Emmy Chu. She said she's having a rough time. Please pray for my dad, who's in the ICU right now.
Oh, man.
I think he'll be okay, but he's very sick. Well, our thoughts and prayers are with you.
And speaking of thoughts and prayers, we're going to be doing a meditation at the end of the show.
That's right.
So we'll definitely hold a thought for your dad, and hopefully everything will be okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome to the show. It's nice to be in person. We're not always in person these days.
No, it is nice when we are together.
Well, and it's
you guys like it.
And it's nice to be in person when we found the Holy Grail of Shipwrecks, honestly.
So tell me about this, because I didn't really look too much into it, but $20 billion. I mean, holy cow! I can only imagine it would just be a massive.
Yeah. Booty.
Yeah, I mean, like so many people would be trying to okay. People have like risked their lives, literally died over just trying to find $1 million. I can't even imagine $20 billion.
It's true,
right?
It's true.
I mean, like, where is this thing? Should we go look for it?
So basically, this article is called "The Holy Grail of Shipwrecks to be raised from the deep, along with $20 billion of treasure." So this ship called the San Jose, it was sunk by the British Navy in about 1708 off the port of, just make sure I pronounce this right, but Cartagena in Colombia. Now, this thing sunk and it will be recovered as a matter of urgency, Colombia says, who probably doesn't have the most money.
So it sunk in 1700, but it's a matter of urgency right now.
Yeah, because, well, Ben, there's a matter of urgency to get $20 billion into the pockets of as many politicians as possible, probably. So it's thought that check this out. It's thought that on this ship, there were 200 tons of silver, emeralds, and 11 million gold coins. 11 million gold coins. Now, one of those gold coins, like if that's an ounce of gold, they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah. I like 1 ounce of gold is roughly like $2,000, right? So
yeah.
If it is 1 ounce of a coin that's worth 1 ounce, and there's millions of them, that's a lot of money.
Lots of money. Yeah. Lots and lots of money
coming out. And now, let alone the emeralds alone.
Right. So now this ship was a 62-gun, 3-masted galleon ship. There were 600 sailors on board. All but 11 went down with the ship. So their bodies were definitely eaten by the creatures of the sea. Yeah. Safe to say, not to be gross. Now, it sank transporting plundered gold, precious stones, and metals from the Americas back to Spain. Now, this is where it gets kind of funny, because this Colombian president, Juan Manuel Santos, said in 2015, when the wreck was discovered, that the treasure is the most valuable that has been found in the history of humanity. Right?
Right. I mean, if we're talking about $20 billion, yeah, I can imagine that.
Right.
That is a whole lot of money.
So, and what's crazy too is like, this is only 3,100 feet below the surface. It's not that deep. It's perfectly preserved. Will be brought above water before this guy, President Gustavo Petro's term ends in 2026. So he wants to leave a legacy for himself. You can tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, it gets kind of weird here because the U.S. salvage team which is called Glockamora, says they located it in 1981. They're the ones that located it. So they're kind of claiming ownership over this find.
Right. I mean, technically, if it's in the ocean, national waters, I mean, you could, if you found it,
it's yours.
Technically, it
is.
It's
yours.
There's all a lot of like weird bureaucratic crap that gets involved.
Yes.
Because there's these whatever, it's like we're talking about the Colombian government right now.
Exactly. Right? Okay, so the Colombian government, of course, disputes the claim that they found it in 1981. They say that they found it with divers in 2015 in a different location, which remains secret. Now, Glockamora, it claims it's owed $10 billion. Now, the guys that originally found it claim that they're owed $10 billion by the Colombia government because it handed over coordinates to them to find it in the first place. Now, that's half of the $20 billion because, hey, we found it for you guys. At least do us, have a little bit of respect for the fact that we found this. Mm-hmm. Now, because the Colombian government is refusing, of course, conveniently refusing. Yeah. They're like, oh, they found this. We better, basically say that these guys didn't find it. We'll claim it for ourselves and we'll get all of the money, right? So Glockamora is suing for half the treasure. This is also very weird. This arbitration case is being heard in London. Why London?
That is weird.
No, like this actually is almost weirder than the entire story of 20 billion being found at sea.
Where else, I mean, this is
you could have like where would you have something like this? We're talking about America claiming something and then the Colombian government claiming something. Why does London or the UK have jurisdiction over anything?
Maybe it's because they're completely out of it, outside of this.
But then why not have it in Switzerland? Switzerland is a place where that happens a lot.
Yeah, I don't know.
But isn't it strange that these conspiracy theorists all over the world claim that the bank of the entire world is in London? That London is the bank of the world.
Yeah, that is.
And then you have them being the ones that have jurisdiction over, like, that is ridiculous. Like, why would any American view a ruling by the British government or the London government, whatever you want to call it, as being legitimate over a claim like this?
Right.
Super strange.
Well, and on top of that, who did you say was is the Colombian government the ones that are trying to pull up the ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to go and take the 20 billion for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and it also depends on the contract. Okay, so I mean, this is where it gets really weird, right? Because if you are if I have a company that salvages ships and looks for shipwrecks and whatnot, and then you're a government saying, hey, so you have to look at the contract, right? And I'm sure this is what the judge is going to be looked at. What was the original contract right. that was signed? How did it say that you would get part? But who knows if they thought it was like $20 billion or not? But obviously they know, they have a rough estimate of how many coins are there and what's there, even though they haven't seen it yet. They just know the location. But then it's also weird because the Colombian government said it was in a different location from what.
Well, and if you're the guys on the Glockamora and you're like, well, we've got to tell the Colombian government by rights, maybe it's theirs. So, hey, just do us the favor of giving us half because that's what's normal. And they're like, what? Oh, they go out there to check it out. They find it and they're like, what ship? We didn't find a ship.
Yeah, it would probably go to Ukraine anyway. So
yeah, yeah. That's very true. 20 billion is a drop in the ocean.
Oh, wait a minute. Doesn't that belong to us?
Right.
No, really, I'm kind of surprised that, I mean, you would have to keep this location so secret because a lot of people would then try to, I'm sure there's actually people trying to find it right now, actually. But, it's like 3,000 feet deep is very, for people like us, that's really, really, really deep. But when you think about where the Titanic is, which is I think 12,000, 12,000 feet deep,
Mhm.
which is actually, and it's on a near kind of like a huge cliff thing
Yeah.
too, and it's not that easy to get to. If this is just kind of like flat ocean bottom, it would probably be, I mean, it's a little now, especially like 3,000 feet is a lot, but it's not a whole lot for like a government who has the resources to do something like that. So
Okay,
really
so
interesting.
again, the Colombian government here says that the minister says the government's team visited the coordinates given by the company and found no trace of the San Jose. Spain and Bolivia's indigenous, forgive me for pronouncing this wrong, Cara Nation claims ownership of this as well.
I mean, everyone's going to say.
Yeah, they say the Spanish forced their people to mine the metals used in the treasure, so now it's theirs.
I mean, realistically, they should just probably divide it up to. Yeah, I mean, that would probably make the most sense. It's so old anyway.
Well, didn't they say $7 billion would end world hunger?
Yeah, I mean,
So then
technically,
why don't you just use that?
Is what they said.
Yeah.
Just put it back into the world, right? In world hunger, which we know is not actually going to happen with $7 billion, but that's what they just, tried to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though that like all the politics that go into this stuff when somebody finds something, who's going to be honest about any of that for real? Not when the Colombian government has access to 20 billion. 20 billion under the water right there.
Yeah, 20 billion. I'm sorry, where did this sink again?
It sunk.
I mean, they're not going to say exactly where, but
yeah, off the port of Cartagena.
So it was sunk by the British Navy. Maybe that's something to do with why it's in London. But maybe not.
More likely that it has to do with
I mean, this
highly conspiratorial things.
It happened so long ago. This was still in, I mean, yeah, this is when the world was still at war with each other. So,
yeah, 1708. It's a long time ago.
600 sailors. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot. And they had 62 gun, 3-masted galleon ship. It's a big ship.
Really, it's just essentially a graveyard at this point.
But why would they sink if they knew that gold was on there? Why would they sink it? If they could get, like, the idea would be to take over the ship to get all of the funds, get all of the gold, right? Why sink it?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe just thought it was a warship.
Maybe.
That could be. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe they tried.
Do we have anything on that?
It'd be interesting.
Why they sunk this? Why did the Brits sink the ship in the first place? Because it had tons and tons of many billions of dollars on it. Well, by our standards now, millions back then. Yeah, we'll have to try to figure that out. Oh, you found it?
Launched and sank in a battle in the Varu Island.
Yeah, it was sinking in a
just
battle.
South of Cartagena, laden with gold, silver, emeralds, worth about 17 billion.
Gosh, that's a lot. I mean, that could have been a whole country's wealth on that ship,
or many countries' wealth.
Yeah, and I mean, 20 billion in today's dollars. I don't even know what that would be like. I mean,
countries in the past, I don't think even could imagine that wealth.
The fleet encountered a British squadron. There was a battle known as Wager's Action.
During the battle, the powder magazines of San Jose detonated, destroying and sinking the ship with most of her crew and the gold, silver, emeralds, and jewelry collected in the South American colonies to finance the Spanish King's war effort.
Hopefully, you can hear Lindsay. You guys.
I don't know if they can hear you, Lindsay. So
we'll see on the comments if they can.
But man, there's so many shipwrecks though around the world that have so much money. I mean, people make this like a living.
Yeah,
really.
That's what they do. And it's dangerous. It's highly dangerous because of all of the different players that come in to play. Like as soon as there's money somewhere, like so many crazy people get like involved, Well, hey, let's watch a trailer. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about more buried treasure. It's going to be pretty cool.
100
From heroes fighting fanged serpents in mythical legends, to ancient maps and drawings documenting colossal beasts.
Thing where so many people have gone there and
What
died.
Hi, everyone. Lindsay Ben and I were in a deep conversation about buried treasure.
Let me do it again.
Okay.
Take two.
From heroes fighting fanged serpents in mythical legends, to ancient maps and drawings documenting colossal beasts, to modern movies revealing a history we were never told. Could the truth about the Leviathan be out there, buried deep beneath the waves of time? With its untold depths, couldn't the sea keep alive such huge specimens of life from another age? This sea that never changes, while the land masses undergo almost continuous alteration? Couldn't the heart of the ocean hide the last remaining varieties of these titanic species, for whom years are centuries and centuries millennia? Tales of deep-sea monsters go far beyond a quote from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Join Edge of Wonder for a deep dive into the cryptids of the abyss.
Well, you guys, you can find that series over on Rise TV. It's a whole massive series we did, about 6 episodes, I think, in total, all about the weirdness and strange things in the sea, from like Loch Ness Monster to the Kraken to even like how Aleister Crowley's involved and all kinds of things. So come over to Rise TV to support our work, and you can watch that series along with so many other series that we have, and we just saw a bunch more that we're going to be dropping over the next month or two. So you find it all on Rise TV. So okay, let's see, where were we?
Well, we were just kind of finishing up this story about the Colombian crazy shipwreck with the $20 billion of treasure, and now we're going into the island with 100 million hidden. That's 123.12 million.
Mm-hmm.
Pounds, you didn't say.
Pounds.
Pounds.
Well, it says dollars here.
Yeah, 100, about roughly 125.
Oh, yes.
100 million pounds, roughly 125 million US dollars.
Apologies for the confusion there. So this is a BBC thing, the article here. It says the legend says that pirate treasure worth more than $123 million is buried on an Indian Ocean island. Now, we were just talking about this, but like the Curse of Oak Island has been on all day.
Yeah.
In
that is
on the History
so
Channel.
Fascinating. But there's so many shows already that they've done on that, but it's still very fascinating concept.
Well, and you were saying that like on Oak Island, it's like people's search for the money pit has ended in death like multiple times, right?
So many. Yeah. A lot of people have died.
I guess like 6 or 7 people have died.
Yeah,
like
that's why they call it the Curse of Oak Island, because so many people have died trying to find that treasure. And there's like speculation whether it actually exists or not, because no one really
ever seen it. Really.
Yeah. I mean, people have found, I could be wrong on this, but I think people have found small things here and there throughout the years, but nothing like the actual Holy Grail treasure that they've been looking for.
Do you think, I have a question for you, Ben, like, do you actually think that buried treasure can be cursed?
It's a really good question.
Because there's apparently still treasure even in the pyramids now.
Yeah, it's true.
They haven't recovered yet.
It's like the thing, I think it depends on the manner of who buried it, how it was buried, and then like how they died. So if they died trying to protect the treasure, then it's kind of like, or if they're like obsessed with it after death, then I think there could actually be something going on.
You mean
the person who originally...
You think they can be obsessed with it after death and this causes a curse? That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it is very likely, depending on, but also like who's finding it and everything else. But then it's like, when you think about pirates, most of them are stealing it from somebody else anyway.
Right. so it's kind of like you screwed over how many people even to get it onto your ship.
Yeah. So I think this is where it gets complicated. But also like in death, it's like, who really cares? Like what can you really do with money anyway? I mean, even if you're on a desert, like let's say you were lost on a desert island and you found $1 billion, like really, what's that going to do?
It's not going to do anything.
Yeah. I mean,
you're going to start trying to eat the
gold.
gold.
You're the richest person, and that have like half of the hemisphere of the world there, but you can't,
nowhere to spend it.
Well, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if anyone comes there, you could be like, hey, I'll give you whatever for food. It's like, here's $1 million just for like a, fried chicken or something. So I mean,
they probably would trade that for that.
Yeah. So I think it really depends on a lot of factors. Now, I think the shipwreck things are, to me, a little bit more, I mean, because really it is a graveyard. When you think about these shipwrecks, how many people have, because I mean, it's a little different than buried treasure, right? Buried treasure is like, okay, I mean, a lot of people were burying their treasure because they didn't want to get captured by pirates and then have everything confiscated from them. There wasn't like banks back in the day. I mean, there kind of was.
Yeah,
the Rothschilds kind of found the banks.
But a lot more people kept their money individually.
Right. So they would like bury their especially if you're traveling on boat a lot. And then you would, that's why treasure maps are kind of important, because you don't want to forget where you buried it, and then you got to bury it someplace that people wouldn't know about, especially like a deserted island is the best place to have it. I think that's why there's so many.
Well, and if you're a captain and you know where certain islands are, you're then going to, it does make sense why these islands would be used, because no one can access it. Only you can access it.
Or like other ships, but even if they land there, they're not gonna have any idea that
Yeah, it's like the best safety deposit box on the planet.
Yeah, it really is, especially at that time when people didn't travel
or trust anyone
or trust people either. So but I think like on a sunken ship, like something like this, where you have like 600 people that died on this one that we were just the last one that we were talking about, the Colombian aspect of it and things. That's the ones that really kind of like make me think, because I mean, that is essentially a graveyard. All these people died, and I'm sure
like 600 people
almost. And I'm sure there's like still ghosts lingering in this.
So the area you think might even be haunted, that area?
It very well could be, and we don't think about it in this sense with the water aspect in the ocean. But when you really like, because I mean, maybe that's why there's a lot of certain accidents that happen, that's another factor involved, it's just like these kind of lost souls that are like drifting within the ocean itself or in that area. So it's really, really, really hard to say for sure. But I would definitely be a little bit skeptical of anything at this point. I would find like, it's like, oh, this was like retrieved from like a ship or whatever. In fact, actually, my mom does have a cross that was found. It was from a shipwreck from like the 1600s, and it was they recovered it, and then like you can buy, like now that you can buy it in stores and things like that. Especially like,
is it haunted?
I don't think so. It actually has a cross, and it's like Jesus on the cross. It's from like the 1600s.
The Catholic.
Yeah. So and it was like something like that. I mean, I think if you found like a gold coin or something, I think that the things that are a little bit more challenging is if like you personally had like a ring or some kind of necklace or something that was like yours, not just like a gold coin, right? But like something that was like personally yours, and then you died. And then like someone takes that same piece and is wearing it or something, then I think that could be, and it's really,
you mean because the person who owned it before almost still owns it, And so somebody else is wearing it, and there could be some memory from that's in the
and actually
object.
It was really interesting because in the early 2000s, I had this one necklace that I wore all the time, and I bought it somewhere. And it had like a moonstone gem in it and some other things, some design or something. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But anyway, it was really interesting because one of my friends who was very in tune with all of this, as soon as she saw it, she was like, oh, somebody had that died. And I was like, what? But she's like, no, don't worry. I feel very good from it. Like they're not, they don't like, they're not attached to it or anything, but the previous owner did die, and I was like, that is really weird. And I think I asked the person where I bought it from, and it turned out it was like, oh yeah, this woman died. And then it's like all this jewelry and everything she owned was like sold in auctions. So it's another thing, because that's a very common thing. Like when people die,
there's signatures on it.
And I mean, well, all this stuff goes to auctions. Usually people buy all this jewelry, but it's like, yeah, I still think that there is this energy, because especially if something you valued and every day you're thinking about it, putting this energy into that, whatever that item is. So I still think it could have that energy from the previous owner, but I think granted, when we die, like the whole point is not to be attached to these worldly things,
Right.
But so I think in most cases you're probably fine, but other cases, like if you're really obsessed with some kind of treasure and you die and you just don't want to let go, like and then, like you mentioned the Egyptian aspect with the pharaohs, and that's why I think everything is cursed there, because it's like they were supposed to take that when they go on to their next life. So people go in there and are taking everything, and it's like,
well, they also,
this is like,
specifically with the Egyptians, they put hieroglyphics and certain signs and spells in there that anyone that would touch that would be cursed for whatever reason.
Right.
So they're actually, like, whether you believe in these things or not, when those signs are up and they've basically tried to weave that into this entire ceremony, it becomes something potentially that we can't understand. And then people go and tamper with it, and they end up paying the price because, and like they all try to explain it all away. Like all of these articles, like when they disturbed King Tut's tomb, they all died of this like mysterious disease over a period of time.
Yeah. 100%.
No one can explain it, but they're like, but it's not a curse.
It's not a curse
because curses don't exist.
Right.
But we can't explain why these people died.
Well, it was like, it was just this the air, like the King Tut specifically.
It was the air. It wasn't the curse.
Micros in the air, and that's what caused them to get sick. And certain ones had cancer or whatever. But it's like, it's still a curse, no matter how you look at it. They still die. Yeah. All of them, every single one.
You can't explain this one
away.
Like,
if they didn't go in there, they wouldn't have died.
Exactly.
It's like, that's kind of how you can look at it. But yeah, so I think this could very well be two different kind of things that we're talking about. One, it's like, okay, this person died, this king, King Tut, everything's intact. Like he's supposed to carry his jewels with him, something like a shipwreck. But it's also possible that some people might want it to be found, or people who died, that are still lingering around to, like, it's kind of like, hey, I want to be remembered. I don't want to just be like buried in sea. I would like them to find this and have finally a home that I can, like, put it in and rest. So maybe that's why more recently, especially with technology, we are able to find more of these things, and why a lot more of them are coming up. So I think there could be both scenarios. I think it just kind of depends on, I think it really comes down to the individual person. If you're buying something out there, like what you kind of feel. If it's like, wow, this is kind of like, it's like, you pick up something and you feel kind of like, get a shock from it almost, or something, you're like, okay, I'm not going to get this, but if something else you're gravitated towards and you're like, I just feel really positive about this, so I think it really kind of depends on, but this whole thing with, well, okay. Yeah. Sorry. So let's get back. I'll have you say more of like the $125 million.
Yeah. So we'll go through this story, and then I actually have some I want to add to kind of what you're saying. So
Mhm.
you guys hold on, and we'll have.
Or I mean, if you want to
No. Well,
continue on
let's
this conversation, I just didn't want to.
let's go through this
gonna
first,
go
and
off
then
track too much.
we'll go right into it. So the island with 100 million pounds hidden, which is again 123.12 million. Legend says pirate treasure worth more than $123 million is buried on an Indian Ocean island. Although the region is thought to be littered with hidden treasure, this one is said to be the Holy Grail, or the world's biggest booty haul.
Hmm.
Okay, now accounts passed down on islands of the Seychelles in La Réunion. Did I pronounce that right? No one knows. Treasure hunters Reginald Herbert Cruz Wilkins, aka Treasure Man to the Seychelles people, hunted it for 27 years until his death in 1977. His son John inherited the nickname and the quest. Now,
Inherited the nickname.
From his dad.
Treasure Man.
Treasure Man.
So like this dude spent his 27 years of his life looking for us, and then he died, and he never really.
Well, he passed it down to his son.
Yeah.
So now his son's taken.
But then it's like, so in some aspect, it's almost like the curse becomes the obsession.
Yeah,
in
kind
some
of
things with this,
Or it depends, because if you're just, well, we can get into this after, but let's go through it. So
let's keep going.
Here's the tale here. Okay, so 1721, Frenchman Oliver Levasseur was known as the Buzzard because of the speed with which he would attack enemies. He was allowed to operate as a privateer, but within a few months, he turned to the more lucrative career of pirating. With 750 pirates over 3 ships, they came across a Portuguese galleon flying British colors in the port of La Réunion. They put 250 men on board and killed the crew. Levasseur didn't know what was on the ship and was astonished. A local historian described it as a floating treasure house believed to consist of gold and silver bars, precious stones, uncut diamonds, guineas, church plate, and goblets. Each pirate got 42 diamonds and 5,000 gold guineas apiece. They were extra shares for the officers. Levasseur kept the rest. Then the pirate disappeared. It's believed he hid his treasure on the Seychelles island of Mahé. Okay, now, this is a quote. He broke up his crew in groups of 20 men, my father thought. The crew didn't know where the treasure chamber would be. The treasure was placed in a cave kept for a temporary period, and then when the time came for the proper burial, it was only the burial crew who closed the cavern, and they were then executed. John said no one except Levasseur knew its location. Wow. Okay, so this is actually a pretty interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
When Levasseur was finally captured and executed on the 7th of July, 1730, on La Réunion, he apparently knew there were members of his pirate brotherhood in the crowd. He hurled a piece of parchment into the air, shouting, "My treasure for he who can understand." This is totally the Goonies, dude. Like, this is better than the Goonies. That piece of parchment was a treasure map in the form of a cryptogram of 17 lines. But the cryptogram has been tested to be genuine parchment from the 18th century by the British Museum. Just looks like 17 lines of jumbled symbols to the untrained eye. Levasseur was an intellectual. He was a Greek and Latin scholar who was versed in Masonic symbology.
Mm-hmm.
Cruz Wilkins spent years trying to decode the cryptogram, using everything from Greek, Hebrew, astrology, astronomy, mythology, and the occult to break the elaborate system of clues. Based on what he uncovered, he believed the bounty was buried according to a complex riddle inspired by the 12 labors of Hercules. And after many years, I identified the treasure to be the stunningly beautiful area of Belombre on Mahé's northern coast, surrounded by turquoise sea, lush vegetation, and huge smooth granite boulders sculpted by the waves. People think John is crazy. John has searched more than 40 acres around the Belombre area, exploring crevices and caverns and uncovering what he thinks are pirate markings on rocks. He also found bones, pistols, musket balls, and statuettes. All right, so did John find it? John thinks he's found the actual treasure site, a cavern just off the beach and mere steps from his home. I guess he lives in this area, right? I mean, if you were searching for this thing your whole life, you might as well.
He probably moved to that area, right? Just because, otherwise, like, what are you going to do? Like, just go there for a week,
right?
Yeah.
He said that it's blocked by boulders, only accessed by an underwater tunnel, supposedly protected by a final booby trap over the treasure. This is the Goonies. The problem is, it's illegal to dig government land without a permit. John was shut down by the government in 2009 until he can pay 250 rupees. That's 18,000. What? 250,000 rupees, which is almost $20,000 to get a license. It's about $19,000 to get a license. John believes this was done in order to secure the government's stake on the booty haul.
Probably.
Yeah. This is what I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
Exactly like that other story. The government owns the land, so they're entitled up to 50%, which is law. Which is what, the other guys, what were their names?
Right, exactly.
The Goon or whatever their name is. Yeah. What was their name? The Glockamora. Yeah, those guys from the blast. So this is crazy. I mean, this guy spent his whole life looking for this. He's found it, and he's going to get screwed out of his
the other
100 million pounds.
The other weird thing is you have these pirates that are burying this treasure. Then it's like, I mean, they're stealing this treasure. Then they're like, oh, I got to bury it somewhere. And then it's like, are they ever going to come back to get it? It's like,
but think about it.
It's so funny. It kind of
think about how many things like that have been left that we're not even aware of.
Oh my gosh.
That people never told anyone about. You know what I mean? They're all just there.
And that's why people find stuff. Especially in that area. I mean, what was it? Like just recently, someone found like a old sword that was in the water. It was like a 900-year-old sword,
and it was fine, right?
Yeah. Well, it had all these like barnacles and stuff on it, but it's like once you clear it off and everything else, and it was like a really super expensive sword, So it's like obviously here in the part of America, you're not going to be able to find too much. Yeah, that was it. But
that's pretty cool.
But, definitely especially these islands where so many ships and wreckage has happened, there's a lot more things that you're gonna find in this. So, but that's,
I think so. We were having this conversation. Let's actually, why don't we play a trailer? When we come back, we're going to get more into our theories around treasures and what's really going on and why they're haunted and stuff. Because I think that there's more to this than meets the eye. But why don't we play that trailer? And then we'll be back with you guys in just a couple minutes.
The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most mysterious and paranormal places in the world. Ships, planes, and people disappear there, never to be seen again.
Are the paranormal aspects of these disappearances really just a myth?
Are the tales of boats vanishing off the face of the earth telling us something strange is going on?
Why are some missing boats showing up later completely intact, but the entire crew disappeared without a trace?
Most compelling of all, phantom ships are still being spotted at sea as mysterious ghost ships.
And that's the truly bizarre, mysterious, and fascinating research we did for you today.
So strap on your goulashes and hold on tight to the edge. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
All right. Well, we're back. You can find all of that good stuff on rise.tv. That is our subscription platform where, we make ends meet over there. So if you guys would like to support our work, we really appreciate it. You get like over 400 videos easily. All kinds of cool things that we've researched, new stuff dropping every week. We've got anything that you've been curious about. We've got series on reptilians, Hitler's mad search for relics during World War II, UFOs, ancient civilizations, crazy stuff, deep state stuff, everything that you could possibly want. So definitely check that out. Ben and I have worked really hard on that, and Lindsay sitting right over there.
Yeah, all of us, the whole team, really,
For real.
every aspect of it.
Oh, and it's good stuff. So much cool stuff in there. So many different leads that you can find, and you can research this stuff for yourself. It's really, really cool. But anyway, back to this conversation we're having on.
You know, before you like jump into everything,
Yeah.
the thing that caught my eye out of everything is, okay, this is like 1700s. How is this pirate guy? If this guy can't even go underwater under a tunnel, how in the heck did the pirate take his treasure underwater without even like a scuba diving gear?
He said that he used a bunch of other people. They locked it in, and then when they came back out, they were all executed.
He killed them all. That's right. Yeah.
Tides too. Some places you can access
With the
when
low tides.
aren't there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And this guy is not a dumb dude. So he's scouted this place out and knew about it for a while and knew what to do, you know.
That's a good point. Okay.
Now we were just having this conversation. Why are treasures so kind of haunted, right? And while I think like what you were saying is revolved around the treasures themselves having this energy, or maybe even there's some spells that could have been cast, which is totally a viable, legitimate thing. I think there's also the element of, think about what a person has to give to get that treasure. Like nothing in this world is really for free when you really think about it. Like you have to give something to get something. Like this is how it works, right? Like even in the supermarket, you have to pay money to get groceries. That's why we work, so that we have some type of currency that we can exchange to live our lives properly. Like that's really what's going on here, right? And so when you get an overabundance of something without potentially having to work for it, there can be things that come along with that, I think, that are not so good. And so we're talking about like hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars. And because of what it is, it has this like natural bad luck element to it, potentially, that where you're not giving something to get it, you're just getting a whole lot of it. Now, in the case of this fellow who searched his whole life for this, I don't necessarily think that that's as much of a problem. You know, it's like it's been his life work, and like getting compensated for that is one thing, but we're still talking about $10 billion.
No,
Correct.
well, no, this guy.
Well, sorry.
it's
Well, sorry.
100,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
100 million.
We're still talking about 50 million.
Which he
pounds
gets
or whatever.
technically half. Well, even still, I mean, that's still so much money. Even
So much.
It's like, well, the government's taking half of it.
But he's
still
an old man. At this point for him, it's probably about the principle. But look what happens every single time you get other people involved in this. Everyone gets greedy and starts like getting out of their minds, pretty much. You know, I just watched this interview. Do you ever like listen to Theo Vaughn?
I don't think so.
He's I guess you could say he's made it big time now, but he's like an up and coming comedian.
Oh yeah,
super
that's
funny
right.
dude.
Okay, yeah. I do.
He
know
had
who
Tucker
is.
Carlson
That's right.
on.
Yeah.
He had Tucker Carlson on last week. They were having this kind of like funny conversation, but it was still like a deep conversation about like stuff that's going on right now. And what's funny is like Theo reaches people that Tucker does not reach, like because he's so funny. And people were like, wow, Tucker is a cool guy. Like they were really surprised by how much of a like funny, cool, easy to talk to guy Tucker was, because I think people have this assumption that Tucker Carlson is this like angry newsman that's telling lies, and like he's on here really talking about things that he's worried about and all of this stuff. And one of the things that he brought up in this interview that was really interesting was how greed is no longer looked down on. Like, yeah, in the past, like if you were greedy, it was gross. It's like one of the 7 deadly sins. Like you were criticized for it, like you being like this like greedy, slimy, rat or whatever.
Wow.
And he was like, look at it now. He's like, people have been trained to no longer criticize people for being greedy. And he's like, he was kind of like making the point, like, do you think these people that are around us are not greedy? He's like, they are. They're extremely greedy. Like, and he was making the point of these like politicians.
I
Like,
was gonna say,
how are they
like,
making all this money?
Yeah.
And like, why are
Yeah.
why is it that people that tell the truth get persecuted and people that lie, no one cares? He's like, if people are telling the truth, he's like, how you know they're telling the truth is when they start getting attacked by other people. And he's like, if people are telling lies, they don't get attacked. And so he was making this point, and it was really, really like a really good point.
Right. Well, I mean, you can get taxed by the people you're making lies about, but the problem is that usually you're telling those lies because you want money or you're getting money from something. And so then the people that you're attacking don't have the resources to really do too
That's
much
true.
about it, you know?
That's true. But also, people that are lying, people are usually like, this guy's crazy. He's obviously lying. No one cares. They're like,
that's the other aspect.
But when you're
too.
telling the truth and you see all of these people attacking them, he's like, that's how you know they're telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang, you know? And hey, upgrade Nerf gun money. Thank you very much. So I just think like this whole point about money and this like search for free money is like a complete trap. Like that is the booby trap.
In a
For
sense,
real.
You're right.
Because like why would you even want to get something for nothing in the first place? That entire idea, like, do you really think you wouldn't have to give something up for that? Like, look at these people. They go out, they try to find buried treasure. They end up losing their life.
Some of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they have all of these hardships along the way.
Yeah.
It's because like, what do you think? You're just going to get this money and like, it's going to be smooth sailing.
Well, I think there's two different kinds of people too. Some people are doing it more for like the thrill about it too. I mean,
Sure.
like, you know, I would love to just, you know, spend some time and just be like, wow, this was, you know, more for like the thrill about it. Right. And like film it, everything. Like, can we find anything? Is there anything, you know? And it's like, okay, if you don't find anything, then it's like, cool. We have a cool story to tell, you know? But I think what happens when you get so obsessed with like, you can't do anything else, and this is all you're focusing on, then it's like, okay, then your health is going to deteriorate. You're going to start having problems and everything, because it's like you're just so obsessed because you want the money, rather than, you know, doing it more for like the journey and the experience and the thrill of trying to find something.
Yeah, but that can very quickly turn into pirating.
It definitely
And like,
could.
like think about what pirates were doing. They were basically like, hey, we can escape all of the like rules of our society by basically getting a house on the ship. And then if we can attack and win, we will. And whoever's strongest wins. It's rule of the jungle out there.
Mhm.
And then how were pirates described in history? Like scoundrels. They had very few teeth, if any. You know, ugly, dirty, disgusting scoundrels.
They just didn't. They played by their rules,
right?
And they weren't like, you know.
And the captain was usually the toughest and the baddest, right?
Yeah.
But they were also just like disgusting. Like that was that's greed taken to the nth degree. You know, if you think about it,
right.
So
I think the other aspect is too, though, is that it's not like, you know, winning the lottery or, you know, like purposely manipulating the stock market or something like that. It's like you are literally stealing people's money.
Literally.
You know, something like this, though, especially like when you're talking about so long ago. But also I think it depends on what you're doing with that money too, and, you know, the intentions behind it, who's like, if what things are backing it. You know, a lot of this stuff will end up going into museums too, if there's like certain artifacts that are found or anything else. So, you know, there's a lot of
modern day
factors.
pirates are politicians. Can you believe
that? That's what it comes down to. That's totally what it is.
Like,
you know?
the pirates of our, like, they've privatized. Like, look, Sam Bankman-Fried the other day. He got like 99 years in prison or something like that for what he did. Or it was like 119 years in prison for what he did. Like that guy was like a pirate.
Yeah, seriously. And they were all backing him. And that's
he got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, completely. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, he did, you know, he probably didn't even, really know what he was doing half the time. It was probably just being directed by people above him, and then completely.
Oh, somebody said, actually, take Karate Cat screen question and put that in our Q&A questions. We'll answer that in the question.
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll answer that then.
Wait till we get to the question.
Short answer is no, but
no, definitely not. It's just easy to manipulate things.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just interesting. Like, you know, time changes, but the same kind of like dirty people are out there doing the things that they do, you know?
Right. I mean, unfortunately, that's just it. I mean, this is what the mob realized. You know, they're like, oh, we can keep being the mob and do all these things, but hey, if we had our own people as politicians, then we could write laws and do whatever we want.
Well, and
it's like, that's essentially, you know, what started happening.
Yeah, the mob was sending people in, but then also the mob is being hired because the mob doesn't care where they're getting money from. They don't care. They have an organization, you know.
No.
I mean, they're gonna try to make money off of that, doing whatever they can. So if these politicians or whoever it is have enough money to hire them to do stuff, well, then they'll just go ahead and, you know, off whoever it is.
Yep. 100%. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. What do we want to do right now? We have a couple more things to talk about, and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Yeah. We can actually jump into the Q&A soon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we actually have somebody asked, if you guys are together, does that mean you're working on something? That was Raybert. Yeah, we are actually. We're shooting all of our like holiday, winter, Christmas. Outside of that, all of our series we just shot this weekend.
Some UFO stuff, near-death experiences going to be coming out, and some really cool winter stories that are uplifting and positive. Halloween was a little bit dark just because it is Halloween. Halloween is Halloween. So we thought, we'll do some lighter things and more positive miracle kind of stuff coming for the holidays, and some cool UFO content for you guys too.
Oh yeah, and just some awesome, just all kinds of stuff. We shot like, I think it was like 8 episodes this 7, 8.
Oh my god,
we shot 8 episodes this week, so we've got a lot coming at you guys. Yeah,
6 Christmas.
It's gonna be cool.
Christmas in December every week.
Right?
So yeah, it'd be cool. And
there's other just to kind of go through this a little bit. So there's other like, I guess you could say, top lost pirate treasure hauls in history. So there was Captain William Kidd's treasure. Now, this was a Scottish captain named William Kidd, one of the most famous pirates in history. He started as a privateer, but turned to piracy. He was executed in 1701 for murder and piracy. He buried a treasure worth 40,000 British pounds, although rumors stated it was more like 400,000 British pounds. 10,000 pounds were recovered from Gardiner's Island off the coast of Long Island and sent to England with Kidd in 1700 as evidence against him. That's pretty interesting. 400,000 pounds is a lot.
There's a whole lot. That's like...
Yeah, read this next one, Ben. This is interesting.
So, Amaro Pargo's
treasure.
Pargo. So he was basically known as the Spanish Robin Hood. Gave many of his plundered spoils to the poor. So this guy was actually as popular as Blackbeard and Sir Francis Drake. So he became the richest man in the Canary Islands. He died in 1747, and his wealth went to his heirs. But in his will, he wrote about a chest with a carved wood pattern on the lid, which he kept in his cabin. Inside was gold jewelry, silver, pearls, Chinese porcelains, paintings, fabrics, a bunch of other stuff. So the chest contents itemized in a book wrapped in parchment and marked with the letter D. Why D? I'm not sure. Maybe for Drake. However, he didn't tell anyone where the book was. So if anyone found the book, they would essentially find the treasure. To this day, the book seems to be...
Where's Amaro Pargo's book? And furthermore, what kind of mother would name their child Amaro Pargo? For real.
Well, I guess, yeah. Well, why is it? Oh, no, yeah. So Sir Francis Drake was the guy that was really popular. But, yeah, marked with the letter D? I'm still not really sure why. It was a chest. Anyway.
Who knows why these crazy pirates do what they do?
Yeah. Then we got Blackbeard's treasure.
Excuse me. Blackbeard's treasure. So Edward Teach Blackbeard terrorized the West Indies and East Coast of America. This was in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. He attacked ships rich in gold, silver, and treasures, leaving Mexico and South America on the way back to Spain. The wealth was estimated at $12.5 million, which was relatively little for a pirate of his stature, actually. Before his bloody death in 1718, Blackbeard stated that his real treasure lay in a location known only to him and the devil.
Yeah, that's another one that a lot of people talk about where they think they're trying to figure out where is the real Blackbeard's treasure. So,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. And then, there's a lot of there's so many of these treasure things too that are going on and that people are like all over the world. There was a guy kind of recently in the last couple of years, he wrote a book. His name was Forrest Flynn. He thought he was going to die of cancer in the 80s, and he decided to do something about buried treasure in New Mexico. And so he literally wrote a book, and in the book he left clues to where this treasure could be. Turned out, though, he didn't actually die of cancer. He actually overcame it, but he still buried $1 million. And there has been a couple deaths related to this, and he did really feel bad because he wasn't like trying to have people die looking for it, but I think it was eventually found. Somebody actually found it.
The Rockies.
So in the Rockies, yeah, okay. So he was an art dealer guy, and then he ended up doing this. So yeah, after a decade-long search.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, he never was like, oh, I'll just take the $1 million back. No, he actually left it there and was hoping somebody would find it, and they did. So So that's one of the true, more recent treasure stories, but still really cool.
Cool. All right. Well, we're about to leave Rise TV, and we're going to go. We're about to leave
to go
YouTube
over to Rise TV.
We're going to go to Rise TV, and we're going to be doing a live Q&A, and then we're going to be getting into a meditation and prayer. We're going to be showing a trailer here for the Big Oil Industrial Complex, which was a really cool series we did that outlines basically all kinds of stuff you never knew that really happened with oil leading up to today. It will blow your mind for sure. Very, very cool series. That's on our Rise.tv platform, where you can subscribe just for $9.99 a month and support our work. Where you can help us keep the lights on, help us keep things going and bring more of this cool information to you guys. So, and when we get back, we'll be doing, again, the live Q&A with everybody on Rise.tv, having a fun conversation over there, and then going into a meditation and prayer. Do you have anything else to add, man?
No. See you guys over there.
See you over Rise.tv.
The planet is dying. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We're made to feel guilty for causing climate change. But what if this is a bigger agenda, being financed by big oil itself? In Edge of Wonder's explosive series, The Big Oil Industrial Complex, we ask, is it all a big scam?
When it comes to oil, it does so much more than just provide our gas. Yet, people know very little about how much oil goes into creating one of the biggest potential health threats on the planet right now. Plastic.
Bike to work. Watch your carbon footprint. Don't use plastic straws. Are the companies pointing fingers really the ones responsible for the destruction?
Why are there plastics in our blood? And if everyone cares so much, then why is there not more pressure on these massive companies to make changes? Who's really behind it all, and why are they doing this?
Is the focus on profits, making these industries turn a blind eye to what they are really doing to our bodies?
Nowadays, plastic is in everything, including all bubblegum.
Get ready for an expose that will turn the oil industry on its head.
You won't believe what we found.
Right, welcome
Get your questions ready because it's time for our live Q&A session exclusively on Rise.tv.